Good morning, everybody. Demon Red Mist here. Although if you're watching this in the afternoon, good afternoon. Oh, hang on, what if you're watching it? Good evening, everybody. Demon Red Mist. Hang on a minute. What if you're watching it like hungover and you ain't got a fucking bollocks to it? Monza, guys. There's only 9 corners. Piece of piss, innit? Well, yes and no. It is a very simple track, but it is also a very easy track to fuck up. There's a few key points I want to mention to a few of the guys. No one specifically, but there's a few key points going into this particular race. Number 1. Make sure that your gears are long enough. If you need to practice a slipstream with 1 or 2 people, just ask, or at least make sure you do it. Even if it's in the practice session just before qualifying, ask. People will give you the slipstream to test it, because if your gears are not long enough, you're fucked. As simple as that. Cars in slipstream could get anywhere up to 185 mile an hour around this track, maybe higher. I don't know, I've not tried it yet, but I'm getting about 175 on my own. So with a slipstream, anything's possible, and these cars can do 200 mile an hour. Whether they'll get that around this track though, I doubt it. Addition to that, if you are going to have a long gear, make sure your first gear is not too long, otherwise you're just going to go at the start of the race. You ain't going to fucking go nowhere. So there's a bit of a compromise. Now, on previous videos, I've shown my setup. On this one, I'm not, because I haven't got a setup yet, guys. I've literally come on, done my gears, and that's it. So I haven't got a setup to show you, and I wouldn't want anyone to use what I've got on the car at the moment, because this isn't going to be what I'm going to use. So if you want a setup, let me get some practice done and see how we get on. Okay, so key points: make sure your gears are long enough, and make sure first gear is short enough. Okay. The next key point is your minimum speed around this track needs to be as high as possible. And what I mean by that is the amount you slow down by in every single corner needs to be as high as possible speed. And the way to get that is to not brake late. You brake late, you brake hard. You brake hard and late, you go slow. That means your mid-corner speed is low. You don't want that. You need that mid-corner speed to be as high as possible. And hopefully I'm going to be able to give you a few tips around this track that will help you do that. And honest to God, guys, if you do struggle with this track, do what I'm about to tell you in every car, pretty much. Okay, I say every car. A couple of the braking zones change a tiny little bit. We're racing with no chicane, first chicane. So the braking point for what is effectively turn 2 on this track, that chicane on the screen there, the braking point in this car at that corner will be different to something that's got loads of grip, but the process is still the same. And I would say if you learn to brake at these points I'm going to show you, you should never struggle in any other car that's faster than this, or at least that's got more grip than this. You should never struggle, because the process is effectively exactly the same no matter the car. Okay, so yeah, let's keep that minimum speed as high as possible. And the next thing to remember is, if you are not on the racing line, you better make sure you slow down early, because if you don't, you're gonna fuck everything for everybody. Okay, by all means go for an overtake up the inside into corners, no problem, but you better not punt anybody off. So you better be ready to do that extra lift, that extra bit of braking a little bit earlier, and leaving space on the exit of a corner. Okay, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do the usual thing. I'm going to go round the track slowly, pointing out my tips in every single corner. Then I'm going to go and try and do a couple of laps to actually show you what I'm on about. And then I'm going to do a lap or two where I am off the racing line, so as if I was attempting to overtake somebody, and the differences that I'm going to have to make. Okay, because the setup is not absolutely spot on, it is possible I may fuck up a few corners, but if I do, hopefully it'll lead me into letting you know how to recover given those situations. Okay, let's head out onto the track. Okay, so the main straight is dead easy, it's straight. Now, heading up to what is going to be turn one of this race, Curva Grande, the fastest possible way around this track is on the racing line, nicely over to the left hand side. Obviously, if you're going to have to defend or overtake, that is completely different. In most cars, the Curva Grande is, I say most cars with grip, the Curva Grande is easily flat out. In these cars, it's on a little bit of a knife edge at the moment, but admittedly I don't have a setup. So what I am doing on approach to this corner at the moment is, just as I get to the 100 meter marker board, I am doing the tiniest of lifts, and it is only a tiny lift. Then I am beginning my turn in towards the corner. That tiny little lift allows me to then be full throttle all the way round the corner. At the moment, if I attempt to go into the corner full throttle, I have to lift halfway around the corner, and that means that my mid-corner speed is lower. So if I do the lift before, my mid-corner speed is higher. Now the aim is going to be to try and do it completely flat out, but that's only going to be if the setup allows it when I've worked on it. If I get to that situation, then this corner will be no lift but begin turning around about the 100 meter marker board, I think, if I remember right. If I am on the right hand side of the track here, or if you are, you will have to do a lift regardless of what your setup is capable of. Because if you don't, you will run wide and you will end up in that gravel over there. Or you will run wide and put somebody else in the gravel over there. So try not to do that. Also, guys, bear in mind, if you are in this position and you do have a car on the right of you, you may also have to do a little lift on the way into this corner. The reason being, excuse me, if they're on the right of you, you can't get into the apex. So the aim at this corner is to get to the apex curb, but if there's a car next to you, you're not going to be able to do that. So bear in mind, you may need a lift to keep that line around the outside of the corner. Okay, so as we approach Curva Grande, as I say, we're going to be hitting about 175 mile an hour without anybody around us, so we are going quite quick. So the gap between the 100 meter marker board and the 50 meter marker board will go pretty quick, but I will double check the turning point here and I'll confirm it on the lap. But the aim is to slowly creep our way towards the apex curb, but actually not get close to it until we're just about under these trees here. And I think there used to be a service road, I don't know if there still is, but around about here, so just after the big trees, yeah, just before the curb ends, is around about where we want to actually have our apex point. This allows you to then allow the car to drift over towards the left hand side of the track naturally on the exit of the corner. So we're keeping this as straight as possible through the corner, let the car run out towards the left, and it puts you into an automatic defending position if you need it. However, if you don't need it, you can just slowly work your way over to the right hand side, and then we are into braking zone number 1. Okay, just want to point the 300 meter marker board out here. Now, on most games, there's a bridge at this set of corners, and that is a damn good sign of a brake marker. No fucking bridge here, though. In this car, honest to God, guys, brake at the 200 meter marker board. This is the 300 meter, the next one is the 200 meter. If you brake at that 200 meter marker board, you will make this corner every single time, even if your tyres are shagged. So if you're braking at this point, guys, there should be no problems of smashing people off, running wide into the corner, or anything like that. So practice that 200 meter marker board, bang, on the brakes. Then what you can do is, if you find you are slowing down too quick, just brake a little bit less. that is going to allow you to have a higher mid-corner speed, which is what we're aiming for. Okay, so we're going to be barreling up towards this corner around about 170 to 175 mile an hour, and as I say, hit the brakes at the 200 meter marker board. If you brake after this point, it does get very, very tricky. Now, it will seem too soon to begin with, but trust me, guys. So we hit the brakes here and we hit them hard. By about the 150 meter marker board, hopefully we can start working off the brakes a little bit, but continuing to slow down, doing brake weight shift if we need to. As we approach the 50 meter marker board, that is your signal to get ready, you're going to have to turn soon. And then the start of the curb says, right, turn, you knobhead. So at the start of the curb, we can begin our turn in, which means, right, I just want to point it out, if we are here, by this point, if you are no longer on the brakes and you're able to turn in for this corner, you'll go through this corner much quicker. You could try and brake much later so that you are still on the brakes all the way into the apex, but these cars will not like it. It will kill the tyres, okay? Doing it this way means you take less tyre wear and a higher mid-corner speed. So now we can start also, right, considering that we've just gone past the 50 meter marker board here, so the start of the curb is what, 30 meters away from the apex? So the 200 meter marker board braking point is actually only 160, 170 meters of braking zone, and you need that. To put it into perspective, if the normal first chicane is there, even in an old, well, I'll say old, an F1 car from 5 years ago, you would have to brake at 150 meters for the first chicane. So in these cars, 170 meters is no surprise. Okay. So as I said, start of the curb, make your way towards the apex, and the aim here is to get your left tyre onto or just over the yellow sausage curb. So get your car into this position, and now we are almost aiming at the next chicane. By taking this type of entry, it means that by this point we can now hopefully be absolutely full throttle through this next right-hander, which we want to try and straddle the sausage curb a little bit. If you can get your right tyre just over it, you'll be able to get around this corner. If your car is sliding over the curb like mine is now, your ride height might be a little too low. Okay, if you do brake too late into this corner, I'll show you the difference in line. If you do brake too late for this corner, instead of turning at the start of the curb, you're going to have to wait and wait to keep the speed coming off, and then turn in much later towards the end of the curb, which means that your entry into the corner is now here, which may appear to give a much wider view of this next corner. However, the more you do this and the more you damage your tyres, you're not going to be exiting the corner here, you're going to be exiting the corner over here. And if you're exiting the corner over here, you're shit slow in this corner, because now we've got a very tight corner that we're going to have to slow down around instead of being full throttle around. Okay, now we're on to a beautiful section of the track. We should hopefully be absolutely flat out, having ridden all over the curb on the left here, and this is where keeping a high minimum apex speed, I know it's a bit backwards sounding, but a high minimum apex speed is crucial. Do not brake late in this corner or the next corner or the next 3 corners actually, okay? The later and harder you brake, the slower you're going to go and the more you're going to kill your tyres. Now for this corner, annoyingly, there isn't really much to give you as a point of brake here, brake there, brake here. I could mention the shadows, but if they change, you're fucked, okay? But what I do want to mention is everything to prepare for this corner should be done by the 50 meter marker board. Okay, now admittedly you can actually barrel up towards this corner and gently dab the brakes about 10 meters before the 50-meter marker board, so around about this shadow. One downshift for me at the moment, but the downshift is crucial, to third gear, and then by the time we have travelled beyond the 50-meter marker board, we can begin our turn in, and as soon as we are over to the apex curb towards the end of the shadows, by this point we should now hopefully be able to get on the throttle full power and not lift it off again. If you brake too late for this corner, you will have to brake hard, your downshift will come later, and you will have to slow down more to get around the corner. You're then not going to be on full throttle. Hopefully when I show you me going through this corner, what I've just said will make a lot more sense. Okay, now the next corner is a very similar process. We'll let the car run out wide here and try and keep it in a nice straight line. On approach, we've got the 100-meter marker board and the 50-meter marker board. And again, we're going to dab the brakes gently about 10 meters before the 50-meter marker board, downshift once, and then do a nice early-ish turn in and make sure we get the right-hand side of the car on the apex curb. Right? It's difficult, a bit difficult for me to explain this. It's much easier when you see it, to be honest. But these corners are surprisingly very, very quick as long as you brake a bit before the 50-meter marker board, get your downshift done, and then you're able to turn in and be on the power here and drive all the way out of the corner. It even will give you a margin for error doing it that way. Easier for me to show you, and I'll do that in a moment. Okay, heading up towards the Ascari chicane now. Again, we're going to be absolutely flat out heading up here. And this is a section of corners that I can understand a lot of people do struggle with. But again, hopefully I'm going to be able to tell you a way to go through these corners that is going to be a game changer if you do struggle here. Okay, just ahead of us we have the 200-meter marker board, but we're going to ignore that because here we have a much bigger brake marker board. It's called the bridge. Now, sorry, my tyres are cold and the car's not wanting to move. The bridge is a point that if you brake at in this car, you could make the corners, but you're going to have a low mid corner speed. If you brake just before this bridge, all right, and you can brake initially hard, but don't be too hard on the brakes here, because by braking at this point you can actually brake considerably less. Now for me, the aim at the moment is to get the car down to third gear, so I'm approaching in sixth. I'll be on the brakes just before the bridge. I'll brake, wait, shift, fifth, fourth, third, and then as we get next to the 50-meter marker board or just after the start of the curb, we can begin our turn in. Okay, and the aim here is to get the left-hand tyres just about ready to touch the yellow and black sausage curbs ahead of us. But again, the aim is that once we have actually turned in and we are now into this position, we should be full throttle. So instead of being on the brakes all the way up to this corner or all the way into the gravel, by this point you can now go full throttle. So that is why you should brake a little bit sooner and gentler to allow you to position the car here to then be full throttle. And once you're full throttle here, you can just continue speeding up and these corners now flow together. Don't turn in too soon here. You don't really want to get on the yellow and black sausage curbs, but we can still be absolutely flat out all the way through the right hander and again all the way through the left hander using a bit of the curb and still absolutely flat out. So those three corners, you can be full throttle through all three of them but only if you brake at the right point that I've mentioned. If you brake after or even at the bridge, at or after the bridge, you will not be able to be full throttle through the first left-hander. You will be out of position for the right-hander, and as a knock-on effect, you will be out of a position for this left-hander, which means you're going to end up in the gravel on the right-hand side of the track here. And you don't want to do that, because now we're approaching one of the two high-speed parts of the track. So the faster you can go through those 3 corners behind me, the faster you're going to go down here. Okay, but again, hopefully I'll be able to show you that in a moment. Right, heading now down to the Parabolica. And this is a very interesting corner as far as I'm concerned, because there are a number of different ways to approach it. I do see a lot of people going off here. Now, to be honest, I would say I go off rarely at this corner, which means I'm going to fuck it up in next week's race. But you don't often, or you won't often see me just going deep into this corner. And that's because a lot of people tend to just brake way too late for this turn. Way too late. A lot like the previous chicane, if you brake a little earlier, you can brake a little less, you can get down to the right gear, giving yourself time to do so, then time to turn in, and then once you've got to the apex point, full throttle your way around the corner. You will never gain time by braking late and going off the track, but you can gain time by braking early and staying on the track. Or I say braking early, braking at the right fucking point. And having said that, it's just reminded me, right, if in practice or in the race, right, you're behind one of the front runners of the race, if you're behind them and you're going, fucking hell, he's braking early there. No, you're braking late, mate. Just something to bear in mind. Okay, so into the Parabolica. 150 metre marker board is the first brake marker board. And then we've got the 100 and the 150. Now, the way I've been taking this corner in the couple of laps that I've done is at around about 120 metres, which there isn't much to signalise when that is, but there is a marshal's flag post there. So around about when that's going out of the screen, I am beginning to brake. Now, I'm not braking hard. I'm not fully on the brakes. I'm braking just enough so that by the time I get down to the 50 metre marker board, I am in third gear. Then by this point I can just focus on allowing the car to slow itself down as I am off the brakes as I begin my turn in. But I don't want to turn in too sharply because the apex point is still not in view yet. It is further round the corner. So for anyone that starts trying to apex right under the marshal's post here, marshal's box or the photographer's box on the right, that's the wrong point. If you're apexing just to the right of me here, you are going to run wide on the exit of the corner, so don't turn in too tightly. Allow the car to continue slowing down, and then as we get beyond the photographer's box on the right, now we are into the region of the apex point is near us. Just to the right, underneath the track map, you can see a lamp post. So between this photographer's box and that lamp post is where your apex point should be, around about halfway around the corner. So, as we're looking at the curb now, the part of the curb that is actually most left is around about where your apex point should be. So as we've continued to slow down, but now we should be able to be getting back on the power to be apexing here, which will open up the final corner. And we can just let off the steering, let the car run wide, let off the steering, the straighter the wheels, the faster you go, and then clip your left-hand wheels on the curb on the left. Ever so simple. Okay, I'm going to go and get a new set of tyres now, and then hopefully I'm going to be able to show you everything that I've just been on about. Now, as I mentioned with the two Lesmos, they're the two 90-degree right-handers after the chicane. The way I've explained it may not have made much sense, and I know there's not a lot to go on there for the first corner, but there is a particular rhythm that you can use, and it's something that you can remind yourself of, and that is, as long as you get through this chicane in the right speed, at the right gear, third gear-ish, then effectively you go up one, down one before the corner. So if you're exiting here like this, we go up one, down one, corner. And if you go on that process, up one, down one, before you have to turn, you'll make the corner. The same here. You go up one, down one into lower gear, and we can go around the corner. Having that simple process of up one, down one, go, is so much easier. Okay. So for this one, as I said, we're going to brake just before the bridge, and then we can be on the throttle, flat out, piece of piss. I say as I'm sideways. Obviously that wasn't at full speed, but anyway, right. Let's see how we get on then. See if I can take my own instructions. So, about 120. Bit late going down to third, missed the apex a bit, but you'll notice I didn't push the car too quick on the way in. I allowed the car to slow down. Anyway, right, let's go. So at the moment, as I said, I can't take Curva Grande flat out, so I am going to do the tiniest of lifts before I turn in, and then I can be full throttle all the way around the corner. We're going to brake at the 200 metre marker board. And even that was right on the edge. Up one, down one, turn in. Once it's in, we can get full throttle. Bit messy on the way in, but up one, brake before the 50, down one, turn in early, use the curb, full throttle, drive all the way out. So I'm actually approaching the corners very calmly, very smoothly, and going through the corners very quick. Brake before the bridge. Bit too much curb, but I'm still going to go flat out now. Easy, easy, easy. If I brake beyond the bridge, I can't do that. Not at that speed anyway. Okay, brake about 120 again, maybe 125. Oh, turned in a bit too tight there, had to wait before I get on the throttle. But even though there's a little bit of an error in there, margin for error, gives me the opportunity to still exit the corner with having no risk of going off the track. If I'd have braked too late, I'm not making that corner. Okay, now I'm going to drive off the racing line, imitating, overtaking or defending. I will have to do a bigger lift here, maybe even a downshift. Bigger lift, let it hug the apex, and if I've got a car to the left of me, I would have to stay right, but I'm going to imitate going up the left side. Brake at the 200, but now I'm going to have to brake harder because I need to make sure I leave space on the outside of the corner and don't run off the track. If I'm actually on the right hand side of the circuit here, do the up one, down one, but just wait longer before you get on the throttle and you can hug the inside of the corner piece of piss. Same here, just wait longer before you get back on the power and you can leave the space for your opponent. Okay, a Ascari chicane on the dirty side of the track. It's a tricky one. It can be done as an overtaking place, but it's also difficult to defend up the inside. But use a similar process. Brake just before the bridge, but brake harder, slow it down more, and again wait before you get on the power, and be prepared to lift off here to make sure you don't run wide. Now on approach to the final corner, if you're going to attack or defend down here, you're going to brake at the same place, but you may have to brake that little bit more. So 125, I'm going to brake a little earlier, Let the car slow down. I'm not on the throttle until I know I can get around the corner and leave space for my opponent. Easy, easy. Okay, now let's do a lap on the racing line, braking too late. And going flat out around here. Well, actually, I won't go flat. Well, no, I will. I'll go in flat out, but then I am going to have to lift. But I've got to. See, even though I did do a lift, I still went off. So that's why you do the lift just before on the way in. Right, okay, let me just go again because I want to approach the next chicane at a decent rate of knots. But that there showed exactly why, at the moment, I am having to do a lift on the way into the corner. Right? Once I've done that tiny lift, and it is literally just a tiny blip, I can then be full throttle all the way around the corner. But if I go in flat out and have to lift mid-corner, I'm reducing speed in the middle of the corner instead of holding or increasing my speed. Okay, so we'll continue this on then. So, braking too late. Now, I'll turn in at full speed again, but, well, I'm at a much slower speed on approach actually, so it don't matter. I'll just head straight to the next chicane. Okay, so if we brake too late, 300 meters, 200 meters. Okay, I've made the corner, but I'm wider, I'm slower, and I'm out of shape. Okay, I'm going to brake at the 50, or just after. Killing the tyres. Okay, I've made the corner, but I'm going slower, and that'll be tyre wear. Okay, I'm going to brake just after the 50. That's going off. Because I'm trying to brake, turn, downshift all at the same time in this car, it doesn't like it, so do it before. Good example is this. Slower to go faster, slower to go faster. If you're going off the track, the first point to make is keep it on the track. If that means going slower, do it. Okay, past the bridge. Even though we're not at full speed, I ain't making the corner. Okay, so this is showing it quite nicely. Okay, now Parabolica, braking too late here. Now obviously I'm braking at 125 meters and I'm not braking too hard, I wouldn't say. Not mate. Okay, there is a gravel trap around the Parabolica. So yeah, don't brake late, guys. The points that I've mentioned to you literally are on the limit as it is, but you can brake at those points and make the corners. Be calm, get your car prepared for the corner before you actually turn in. Okay, I'm trying to think if there was anything else I needed to let anybody know about Monza here. Actually, yeah, there is one more thing, and that is everything that I've just shown you here does count, right? But bear in mind, if you are in a slipstream, you will be going faster, so you may have to brake that little bit sooner. If you are in a slipstream, excuse me, heading into Curva Grande, that tiny little lift that I'm doing will have to potentially be a little bit bigger of a lift. Or if I get the car to a point, or you get the car to a point where on your own you can go around Curva Grande flat, when you're in slipstream you may have to introduce a tiny little lift. Now this track could get very busy, could get very frantic, could be very interesting with a lot of cars and a lot of slipstream, but if you drive sensibly it could be one of the best races of the season, because there is room to overtake here on the straights. Bear that in mind. There's plenty of long, fast straights here So is it worth risking that overtake into a corner when you could actually just take the corner faster and overtake on the exit of the corner on the straight? Food for thought. Anyway, that's it. That's me done for this guide video here. So yeah, I'm done. Let's see, what time is it? It's 20 past 11. Man United play Liverpool today, and I'm hoping to watch that, but got a couple of hours, so I'm in two minds. I might either stay on this and do a bit of practice, or I may continue my Nordschleife drift challenge, which is taking a bit of work. I'll have to wait and see. If I come live, it's because I'm doing the drift challenge. If I don't come live again, it's because I'm practicing in secret. Anyway, have a great Sunday, folks, and I shall catch you all later.